I'm James Sibley here presenting about Hurricane Mitch, which formed in 1998 and made landfall in Central America. What it was most known for, it was the second deadliest hurricane in the Atlantic ever, with over 11,000 reported deaths and over 11,000 missing persons. So if we take a look at the hurricane, on October 25th is when it made landfall, and it wasn't until October 22nd that it was actually even categorized as a Category 1 hurricane. For the majority of the time, it was kept down below Costa Rica, lower than this, by a high-pressure wind ridge coming from the north. However, that suddenly died off, allowing the hurricane to slip by off to the west and pick up the warm waters under Cuba and Puerto Rico and gain speeds of up to over 180-mile-per-hour winds in the course of 3 days, with millibars peaking at 905 millibars, which is pretty impressive. So this is what the hurricane was known for. Over 11,000 deaths, most of which were on Honduras and Nicaragua, with over 11 states or 11 countries being impacted. Yeah, it was pretty incredible. Most of the damage was in Honduras because that's where the eye made landfall. However, Nicaragua was pretty hardly hit too because the hurricane hadn't died out for over 3 days when it hit land. However, the damages were only about $6 billion, converted from 1998, because these are somewhat impoverished countries. So if we take a look at what this hurricane did, there were floods over 40 feet high in some of the coastal cities. A lot of the damage came from when the hurricane made landfall over the mountainous regions. There were hundreds of mudslides and landslides that pounded the coastal cities when the floods came through. Additionally, here's one of the mudslides off of a volcano, and just people got stranded. There was nothing for them to do. There were so many people impacted by this hurricane. There weren't enough rescuers to help them. They were left there alone. And as you can see, they were just, that was it. It was pretty bad. So if we look at what makes this hurricane so intense, 44-foot waves were reported hitting the coastal line. Over 75 inches of rain was unofficially reported in some of the mountainous regions. Additionally, over 120-mile-an-hour winds were sustained for over 2 days as the hurricane made landfall in Honduras. And with the storm surge bringing in so much water and so much intense rain, most of the rivers leading through the capital city rose 41 feet above their original river line. So if we take a look at Honduras itself, which is where the hurricane had the biggest impact, over 80% of all transportation and roads were destroyed in the entire country. 70% of people were left without fresh water. Over 20% of the population, which is 1.5 million people, were left homeless after this hurricane. And 70% of the entire country's crops were destroyed that year. Honduras still has not entirely recovered from this hurricane over almost 20 years later. And that's the end. That's Hurricane Mitch.